we are back. It's amazing. For the SilmFilm script discussion, season 3, episode 1. Oh my goodness, it's been such a long time. It's been like at least half a year, right? It's got to be.
Yeah, it was definitely before April that we finished everything. So
Yeah, it's insane. But we're finally back, and it's amazing, and we're all really excited. Today we're going to be going through the Rebellion of the Noldor. So, just real quick, if we could just run down events that we need to have, that we need to have in this episode, so we don't forget anything, because we don't like to forget important things. Okay,
we
so
probably will.
we probably will. We need to have interactions over in Angband as Melkor, who will by the end of this episode be named Morgoth. Is setting up shop there again. We need to have something having to do with the body of Finwë, the disposition of the body of Finwë. They're the temporary disposition of. We need to have, well, obviously we need to have the big meeting in Tirion and the oath, which is the resolution thereof. What else? What am I missing? We need to have an interaction between Nerdanel and Feanor.
Yeah, there needs to be some build up to that meeting in the square. So the opinions of people like Nerdanel and Fingolfin and Finarfin probably all need to be established before Feanor marches in.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's a lot of stuff that we need to get to. Before we do that, couple of housekeeping items. Everybody who is watching and watches this later, firstly, thank you for doing that. It definitely helps us out as far as kind of helping us rationalize taking time out to do this. You know, any support that you give us by sharing these videos, hitting the like button, commenting, all that helps bring people in to the project so that we attract more talented people who can help us out.
People more talented than us. Woo-hoo.
Yeah. And B, also, helps us to potentially, help us improve what we're doing, to help us reach a higher level of production value than everything you see here. So, just saying. So that's the first thing. And second thing, I'd like to thank everybody who's been participating, not only in the script discussion itself, but everybody who's been participating over on the forums, in the live broadcast with Professor Olson and Trish Lambert and Dave Kale, because this project is a lot more fun because of every single person who's involved. So kudos, everybody. So all of that said, who do we see as, let's get back into our rhythm again. Who do we see as our protagonist for this episode?
I mean, it kind of almost has to be Feanor, but when you have a character who's going to do something that equates to going crazy, you usually choose someone else's eyes to see it through because that person's view is no longer trustworthy.
Yeah.
So the Oath of Feanor is the beginning of Feanor's descent into madness. Well, not the beginning, but the death of Finwë is the beginning of his descent into madness. Before that, he's arrogant and he's got his flaws and everything, but he's still a rational human, well, elf being before his father's death. Yes, you have a dog. Well, at least one present, I don't know. So I don't know if we want to choose another character to see this all through to make it more tragic, to see his fall like that, or if we want to try to focus it on Feanor. Like, I guess those are the two main choices.
Well, I mean, Feanor does seem the obvious choice, and there is, of course, there is impetus to go for something less obvious, like Nerdanel or one of Feanor's sons or Fingolfin. Excuse me for a moment. Hey, what do you think is happening here? Sorry, internet. Go lay down. Both of you, go on. Dog's walking through my set. This extremely high quality set that we've got here.
Yeah, my cat's behaving herself so far, but we'll see if she makes an appearance later.
Yeah, I can't leave them upstairs by themselves because it'll just destroy things, and I'll be really irritated.
Well, that's what she's doing. She's destroying the couch, but I don't care about my couch. It was free.
There you go. So I do kind of feel like not going with Feanor kind of misses the point a little bit.
The reason to go with another character is to see their reaction to his descent to madness. So if we went with Nerdinel, it would be her grief over the tragedy of what's happening that would take center stage, rather than him on his crusade to sweep up all the Noldor into this project. So if we wanted to hit that note, and if the whole thing was supposed to be this, oh no, guys, you really don't want to do this, then we want someone who's Feanor. If we want it to sound like let's go get Morgoth and retake Middle Earth and screw the Valar, if we want that to be the end note of the episode, stick with Feanor. So it just kind of depends on how we want to portray this, because once you hit the kinslaying, it's obvious how bad a mistake this is.
Right.
But in this episode, that might not be obvious to everyone that this is a bad idea.
Right. There are people who are going to go along on this trip who we can pretty definitively say are good people.
Right. I mean, I would say the best of all the Noldor, as far as check off good person category, is probably Finrod Felagund.
Yeah.
He's got the most moral high ground of anybody.
Yeah.
And he goes. And that says something, that it's not only people who don't think things through that go through with this, because he's someone who does think things through. He's a philosopher of sorts.
Yeah. I mean, now at the same time, there is something to be said for potentially giving spotlight to a new character like Galadriel is a new character in the main story at this point. I mean, she was in last season,
but very minor.
Right. She was an extremely minor character who basically had a couple of cameos. Yeah. Whereas here, we could give her a little bit more focus.
Especially since she's one of the voices of antagonism to Feanor.
Right. Now, there's certain things that I want to be very careful of here. I feel like we have to be very careful about having people openly speak out against Feanor in this situation. Because we can't have them make too much sense.
Yeah, I mean, this is essentially a disoriented mob that Feanor marches into, says a few things, and gets them stirred up and on the way out the door.
Right. Right.
So there's got to be more confusion on the opposing side than an actual plan, which is why Fingolfin's viewpoint isn't even don't go or don't do this. His negative view is, hey, can we wait a minute and think this through?
Right.
That's his only complaint. He's not saying it's a bad idea. He just wants to take more time to think about it.
Right. Now, I do think that the hosts kind of had a miss as far as Fingolfin's point of view, because they were talking about, well, Fingolfin is clearly going to be saying, well, this is a bad idea, but that's really not the Fingolfin that we set up in season 2. If you recall, in season 2, episode 9, I believe it was 9 or 10, where I think it was episode 10, where Feanor and Finarfin wind up having these opposing speeches, essentially, and Fingolfin finds himself in this unenviable position of, well, I hate what Feanor is doing, and it's driving me up the wall, but I think he's kind of right, to be honest with you.
Right. That was, in that particular disagreement, that was how it fell out, that Fingolfin felt obligated to support his younger brother, but thought that Feanor had right. thoughts.
Right. Yeah,
But
he does. Fingolfin definitely seems to be making some anti-Valar moves.
Earlier.
Right.
And we do have him as king of the Noldor, acting king of the Noldor,
Right.
have a confrontation with Ole.
Right.
About Melkor. So
right.
you set that up that he's his own man on some level. He's not
right.
just pro somebody else. He has his own view.
Right. So I definitely feel like having him in this position of he feels like he's hemmed in and he's forced to go along with Feanor. There maybe is an element of that, but I don't think that he would lead as many of his people into that situation if he didn't on some level think that this was a good idea.
Feanor is an amazing orator, but he's not everybody's favorite person.
Right.
So the reason 9/10 of the Noldor leave is not just because of Feanor talking. When they figure out that Fingolfin and Finarfin are going too, that's who's leaving. And the biggest host is not Feanor's host. Like the people who are directly following Feanor is a smaller group than
so, the people directly following Feanor are the people who are like just super gung-ho pro Feanor. He's our guy.
They were the ones who were at Formenos. The army he trained at Formenos, that's his group.
Yeah.
But Fingolfin obviously has to publicly say, yes, I support Feanor and I'm going.
Right.
I think the reason to show a private misgiving was to lend weight to the idea that Fingolfin feels obligated to stick to his word. Because we're going to have a lot of people stick to their words moving forward and lead to their deaths.
Yes.
So introducing that before the oath is kind of a good idea so that we see how important it is in this culture that if you said something, you're now bound by your word. You can't, no takebacks.
So,
even on things that don't sound like oaths.
Well, he might use that. Maybe he might use that argument against Finarfin.
Yes.
There's a discussion prior to this. It's possible that Fingolfin is still in the let's get out of here camp, but maybe he needs to kind of fall back on that position to get Finarfin along as well.
Yeah, I think that you're right. There should not be a lot of voices of dissent in the square when we have there's not going to be a big debate in this episode. No. This is not the great debate of season 2. This is a chaotic time where we see people having different ideas of what to do, and then Feanor makes a decision and just sweeps everyone away with it. And again, there's a few voices that try to put the brakes on that or say, hey, Feanor's not the guy we want to follow. We wanted to follow our king, acting king. We can have some things come out there, but it's not a debate. It's more he comes in, he says his part, he gets everyone riled up, and that's that. I mean, it's a done deal.
Rickle, which I know I've asked you.
Is it Rochelle?
I've asked her this like
20
times, and I feel terrible. But her, she just said maybe Mithros, and I'm not entirely certain where in the conversation that was. So, anyway,
protagonist or
yes, that's probably what it is because that makes sense. It could be, but we are going to be getting a lot of Mithros as protagonist
later
in future episodes.
He needs to be prominent and visible in this episode.
Yes,
but I think probably not the main protagonist.
I do have additional misgivings about something. So on the way home, I listened to the entirety of the stuff where they actually talked about this episode. At like double speed in the car ride home. And Dave brought up an idea that Mariel had on the discussion boards. He didn't. I don't think he got it from there, but he came across it independently, where he was saying that have Feanor say the oath alone and have the sons repeated at Feanor's death.
Yes.
I have some issues with this, and I'll elucidate
When
as to why.
we get to that part of this discussion, we can go into the details.
Yeah.
I was disappointed when I heard their discussion go in that direction as well.
Yeah.
Not that it's not a good idea to consider such things, but I wasn't necessarily feeling good about where they landed.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it's an interesting idea. I just don't think, I think it says some things that I don't think they necessarily considered.
Right. And that's when you make changes, they have ramifications. And sometimes it's really good because it's a new dimension to the story that wasn't there before.
Right.
And other times that new dimension to the story changes key events later. And in this case, they were trying to make it that if they made the choice later, it would be more of an informed choice because it would be after some of these events had happened, like the kinseling and all. But
Rachel, that's it. Thank you. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Sorry, how did she say her name?
It's Rachel.
Okay.
Richall. It sounds like all. AOL sounds like all. Richall. Gotcha. Okay. I got it.
Sorry about that.
This time.
Yes. Maybe next time we'll both remember. But
anyway, so all right, let's try to nail some stuff down here.
Okay, don't forget about the frame.
And let's not forget about the frame. That's a very, very good point. Okay. So let's talk about our teaser here. So the teaser is probably going to be like the frame is going to go through the teaser and into Act 1, I think, because we're setting up a new season.
Yeah, it could be a little longer than usual.
Yeah. So teaser, I think, very, very simple. Set us up back in Rivendell again. We need to get Estelle's name in there so that we associate the name with the new actor.
Right, who's going to be a teenager now instead of the kid.
Right, we've got a new kid that's playing him, so we're going to make sure that we know who he is. So characters in the frame that we need to establish in episode 1.
Definitely Estelle, Gilrayan, and Elrond. Those 3 must show up. And potentially the Sons of Elrond, because they're going to be in episode 2. Right. But we can also reintroduce them in episode 2. It's not important that they get in this one.
Right. That's true. Yeah, because he's leaving Rivendell in this episode. Is that correct? Or does he leave in episode 2?
No, he leaves at the very end of this episode.
Okay.
So it kind of mirrors the Noldor marching out of the square with him setting out from Rivendell.
Yeah. So that being the case, so there needs to be a discussion between Gilrayan, Elrond, and Estelle. Is this more of a storytelling opportunity, or is this more of those situations like we had in the last season where we're telling these two stories in parallel with each other?
These are 2 stories told in parallel, although there might be times that the characters in the frame refer to events as like teachable moments. Yeah. So it'll be kind of a blend of the 2 frames we've had this far, I think. Because this frame has its own plot, its own, so there's like plot points that have to come up in the frame in each episode. But so it's not a classroom situation anymore, obviously. But at the same time, Estelle is still young, and there's still people who are maybe being instructive around him. So they can refer to some of the events in the main story. Okay. Like with the Fellwinter coming in, and if there's elves from Rivendell in any of the groups that are helping, they can be exiled Noldor, which means there could be people living in Rivendell who crossed the Helperaxi.
Who were there? Yes.
And any Northerner talking about winter to Southerners tends to be like, oh, you guys know nothing. This is
That's
silly.
adorable. Yeah,
Yes,
when
yeah.
people complain about winter to me, it's like, yeah, I lived in Harbin, China, where it gets down to 40 below at night. So,
Right.
eh,
Yeah,
this
yeah.
really isn't that big a deal to me. Sorry, guys.
Right. And I don't know if you're Facebook friends with D-May, but she just posted a picture from Alaska this week, and there's snow on the ground. And I
Yeah,
was just like, no, it's still August. And she's like, yep.
yeah.
So yeah,
Okay.
the different experiences. But the point being, if we had a character like that just incidentally around,
Yeah.
anytime people start talking about winter, it's like, oh, this is nothing compared to the bitter winters we
Yeah.
endured on the Helcaraxi.
Right.
It's like,
Exactly.
oh, shut up. You've been telling us this for the last 10,000 years.
All right. Well, my timer went off, which means it's time for us to take a break. So if you're watching us live, hang in there. We'll be back in a second. If you're watching us in the future on YouTube, well, definitely like and share the videos if you like and want to share them. If you haven't yet, we'd definitely like for you to subscribe, because it definitely helps us out. And comment down below, ask questions, throw in things that we're missing, all that good stuff, because we never miss anything ever. And join us on the discussion boards. Check out the links below. There's a whole bunch of stuff on that. So, we'll be back.